it was kind of a transformation of saying, okay, I've known this, I've learned the stories as a kid, I've been told, here are the scriptures, memorize these, but my heart being changed and truly saying, wow, God's challenging me to do this differently, to think this way differently, and really asking hard questions and saying, okay, this is a hard question. What does God say about that? Where are you in this place, in this step? And how can you grow from that or in that?
Gateway tunnetaan sellaisista iskulauseista kuin tule sellaisena kuin olet ja täydelliset älkööt vaivautuko. Mutta tämä on myös seurakunta, jossa halutaan auttaa ihmisiä kasvamaan eteenpäin niin uskossaan kuin kokonaisvaltaisesti ihmisinä. Ja täällä tosi erilaisista taustoista tulleet ihmiset, olipa sitten ateisteja tai kirkosta kauan sitten haavoitettuna lähteneitä, eri tavoin rikkinäisiä ihmisiä, on löytäneet turvallisen paikan, jossa tulla hyväksytyksi, kuulua joukkoon ja omaan tahtiin lähteä avaamaan elämäänsä Jumalalle. Tärkein työkalu hengellisessä kasvussa on täällä life group, eli pienryhmä, jossa määrätietoisesti käydään läpi tiettyä hengellisen kasvun polkua ja kysytään, että mitä Jumala haluaa mun elämääni puhua ja mikä on mulle seuraava askel vastata siihen puhutteluun. Eli mulla on tänään täällä haastateltavana Tara Kendrick ja hänellä on kokemusta life groupeista sekä jäsenenä että johtajana. Ja welcome Tara.
Thank you.
So let's look how the life group actually looks like. What's the path for a life group?
Okay.
So there are actually 4 stages, and the watchers can see it on their screens right now. So if you start at the beginning, there's first the live connected.
Right.
So what does that mean in practical terms?
Okay, so in Live Connected, you're just pretty much opening your home to anyone who wants to come and wants to kind of check out faith, check out what is a life group, women getting together or men getting together, what does that look like, feel like? And you just do, very simple things, whether it's following the sermon series or doing a small kind of baseline, like where is your faith? What do you know? What do you understand? And then getting to know each other.
Mm-hmm.
We played silly games, to get to know each other. And then eventually we decided that it was time, we felt comfortable enough with each other to just kind of start sharing our stories.
So what's your stories? Tell a little bit more
like what does that mean?
Yes.
So telling your story is basically telling your life about, who you are, where you come from, maybe what your background is, what your spiritual path was, maybe how you grew up in the home. Did you know God? Did your parents teach you anything? Where did you learn? And then, everybody has brokenness. Mm-hmm. So what were the hard parts in your life? Mm-hmm. How you saw God work in your life or not know God, and what did that look like in those times? Yeah. And then just really sharing some very vulnerable places in your life that, and then, if you're a Christ follower, how you came to faith, and then what that looks like today.
So that's actually really opening up, like under the surface, things you wouldn't share to a stranger, just
right. Somebody. So you definitely have to live in that live connected place for a little while before you step out to do the share your story.
So what comes next after you are in that safe place? How does it look like then?
So then you kind of have a conversation around, okay, we've all shared our story. We all feel somewhat connected because of that piece, because you kind of got very vulnerable and raw. And you decide, okay, maybe we should close this group. And the reality is, we know in any group, whether, it's a book club or a social event, when you bring a new person in, it can change the dynamic. And so when you have that group that you've shared your story, you have that vulnerability, it's time to say, okay, we want to dive deep together, and there's a sense of trust. And so that's when you decide to close the group and have agreement in closing the group.
So the next phase is be transformed.
Yes.
What was the content to do that?
Okay, well, with Be Transformed, this is when you get into what they call the outcomes. So you're on a spiritual growth path, and so there's all different outcomes in your spirituality of places that you can grow. And as a group, there's a small little test you can take to kind of figure out where you are as a group, or you can just decide and start with the trust God, obey God, serve God, and go from there. And that is a little worksheet that you have something you read, and then you work through the questions. And they're very challenging questions, whether you're a new believer or you've been a Christ follower for a long time, because they really look into the scriptures and say, what is God asking you to do in this place? What is God calling you to do in this place? What does God say about these things? And it forces you to inwardly challenge yourself, and then to go back to your group and discuss those challenges. And what's so great about a life group, when you have that place of safety, and then you're able to talk about those challenges, that you're doing it in a place where people can bounce ideas off of each other, and you have a sense of community, but also a sense of accountability.
Eli nämä kaikki outcomeit, suomeksi voisi sanoa, että hengelliset kasvualueet on itse asiassa perustuu Raamatussa siihen, mitä Jeesus ja apostolit opetti ihmisille, jotka halusivat seurata Jeesusta. Eli tässä on tehty tosi paljon vaivaa, että on Raamatusta tutkittu, että mitä asioita Uusi testamentti opettaa meille, ja sitten on tiivistetty ne näihin 20 kasvualueeseen. So what was different for me was that actually how you described, you do the Bible study, you answer the questions. That's something you do on your own at home.
Yes.
Like before you come, there's actually a pre-work.
Right. So you would do that at home, and then you come and you share.
Yeah. So how have you experienced for yourself? Like, is it easy to take time for that? And is it easy for your group members to actually take time and be prepared?
Yeah. Well, it depends on the people. Most people, I would say you get majority of people to do it. Yeah. And even if someone doesn't have time or doesn't do it, they can still contribute, obviously. But again, as leaders of a life group, you can only guide and direct them. You welcome them to your home. You create an environment of safety and authenticity. But at the end of the day, it's between them and God of how much they're going to get out of it. Obviously, doing the homework and coming prepared, you're going to get a lot more out of it personally, and your growth is going to be greater than the person who doesn't. And that's what I like about these life group outcomes is, one, as a life group leader, it's not so scary because you've got a guide, you've got something to follow, so you don't have to be the teacher coming up with a curriculum when they show up to your house. But two, it's not rigid. So you can stay in one place for a long time, you can move fluidly through a couple, and then you can come back. It's really flexible, but there's structure behind it, and there's purpose.
Yes. And if you look at the bullets on the screen right now, the different outcomes, there's no like certain path in which order to go through them, but you can always discern like what is the good next one to go.
Yeah. So sometimes it just feels right to say, okay, we were in
love people.
Yes, like love people. Yep. And then maybe love people. It makes sense to do serve after that. Yeah. And then after that, it could be something else. So you can bounce around. It's not like you have to do step 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah.
How long time do you take for your group to go through the outcomes?
Well, I've been in a group as the group member, not the leader of a life group, and we took about 2 years. And then my group, we took about 2.5 years. Right. So 2 to 3 years is generally 3 years is about the max, I think. But what I like about the life group model is there's kind of an end in mind. You have a purpose. So. You, not that you're trying to check boxes, because that's not the purpose either. The purpose is to grow, but it's to grow so that you're equipped spiritually, not just I know information, but spiritually you're ready to go out and share the information with other people and grow. So my group as a leader, I want my ladies to be able to go and start their own groups.
Yeah. So that's the last phase then, called Change Your World.
Change your world, right?
And how does it look like to change into that? You have just kind of recently done that, right?
Yeah.
So tell us just how did it go?
I think, my experience with it is going to be different than everybody else's experience. Not going to be the same. Our group just got to a place where it just felt right to change over. Some of the ladies decided that they wanted to grow outside of the group, and so they left. And then the girls that did stay, they wanted to dive deep and then just learn kind of what it looks like to be a life group leader. But not everybody is designed or called to be a life group leader, but I think we're all designed and called to be disciples for Christ, and that looks different for everyone.
Yeah.
So, for example, one of my girls, she doesn't actually go to Gateway, she's a neighbor, but she has changed and grown so much spiritually. She's someone who came to our group, she's been in Bible studies her whole life, but she said, I've never experienced authenticity and change in my own heart and how I see Jesus and how I'm walking with God, how I want my daughters to walk with God, how I'm sharing with them with that. The relationships that we formed in this group, she's been in a ton of Bible studies. She's never had deep relationships like that. So she wants to go out and create a group of her own.
That's awesome.
And then another lady, she's pretty new to the faith, so she's still a little scared. But I'm going to kick her out of the nest soon. But what's great about the life group model, it doesn't mean it ends.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people think, oh, so you're telling me that in 2-3 years it has to end. And it doesn't end, it just changes. So, like, for example, I have 2 Change Your World groups now, and we meet, one of them meets once a month and one of them meets twice a month. And our job is to continually grow together, but also to support each other and those that we're supporting.
So you yourself, you have come through a life group, and you are the one who started a new group.
Yes.
And then you meet with your old group?
So I meet with my original group that I was in as a member, and then I meet with my girls that I was the leader, and we're in Change Your World. And so the women support me from my old group with my new group, and then I'm supporting them as they go out and make new groups.
So the chain goes on.
Yeah, and I think that's, God calls us, he says, go out and be disciples for Christ, or for me.
So, tell us something. What was there that really in practical terms helped you actually go out and start doing that on your own?
Well, I probably had to be pushed out of the nest a little too. One was, I'm not a teacher, but I do have the gift of hospitality. So I felt like God just said, go do your gift, open your house, and I will take care of the rest. And so I had this curriculum that was, that worked. I'd been through it. And so I felt good about that. And then spiritually for myself, I felt changed in the sense that I had challenged myself in going through those outcomes to know, okay, I've, serve is not my strength, but I know that I'm going to go and be called to serve and do things. And why is that important? And what does God say about that? And so now I know those answers. And so I feel equipped to challenge others and then turn around and challenge myself again, since it's not something that it's a natural thing for me, like hospitality.
Thank you, Tara, for your time.
Yeah, thank you.